There's the version of parenting we imagine, and then there's the one that actually happens. Here is what actually happened.
That voice dictated my next move. I completely forgot that my child has always been a good kid. She had never done this before. I got up from the tent bare feet because earlier my daughter stepped on my sandals when she was jumping around and they got spoiled, and I was still waiting for someone I had called to bring me another pair from home. I walked to the changing room, and with a stern look and gritted teeth, I ordered her to go back and put on her clothes immediately. I didn't shout, but from my tone she could tell that this was not up for discussion. She ran and started putting on her clothes. There was a gazebo nearby, so I sat there and waited for her to come out. When she did, I started quarreling. I even brought back the stage incident that had happened about 30 minutes ago. I was mad, so I quarreled. I threatened. I was ranting for so long with a very annoyed face. Now, the thing about my daughter is she does not respond to you shouting. No, wow! I have known this for some time now. When you shout at her, she will just stand there and look at you with a very unbothered look. In fact, you will be even more mad because you will be able to tell immediately that this shouting is doing nothing to her. So, while I was busy shouting, screaming, threatening, I even told her I will not take her anywhere with me next time. I was taking back the new shoes I had bought since she likes walking bare feet so much. The entire time she was just there looking very unstunned. After a while, I knew I was just wasting my time, so I breathed in and told her to sit on my laps. Then calmly I started to tell her how she made me mad, right from the stage incident to her removing her clothes. Then I explained why all these were things a good girl does not do. She then told me that her niece had taught her the dance moves, so she wanted to join, since she knew the dance too. And she also said she removed her clothes because her niece's classmates wanted her to try the traditional dance uniform and join them to go do the traditional dance, since they were so few and they needed more people. This made me feel terrible for the way I reacted earlier. Another evening I was tired from work and my patience had already been depleted before the day did. My daughter spilled juice on the floor. It was a small accident, but it was enough to trigger my frustration. I raised my voice. Immediately, she looked at me and said something that stopped me. "Mummy, you are shouting." Not in fear, not in anger, but just calmly observing. Then she added, "You tell me not to shout when I'm angry." That moment felt like I was being cross-examined in court by a very small lawyer. And the truth was, she was right. Parenting teaches you that children do not just listen to what you say. They watch what you do very carefully, especially my child. Growing up, parents never apologize to children, and even in adulthood, it's nearly impossible to get parents to apologize. Growing up, the idea that a parent could say, "I'm sorry," felt almost impossible. Parents corrected you, parents punished you, parents instructed you, but parents did not apologize. One day, I shouted at my daughter for something that later turned out not to be her fault. The silence in the room after I realized that she wasn't at fault was heavy. My African parenting instincts told me to move on and pretend nothing had happened. But the gentle parenting side of me said something else. So I went to her and said, "I'm sorry I shouted. I was wrong." She looked at me with surprise. Then she hugged me and said, "It's okay, Mummy." In that moment, I realized something powerful. Maybe apologizing to our children does not weaken authority. Maybe it teaches them humility and to take up responsibility for their actions. On this one particular day, we were out with some friends, and someone asked the children a question. Most of the children were quiet. My daughter raised her hand and answered confidently. She spoke clearly, without fear. Watching her, I felt some strange pride, but also had a moment of reflection, because at her age I would never have spoken in front of adults like that. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because African parenting had taught me silence in the presence of elders. In that moment, I realized something. Maybe this mix of gentle parenting and African parenting is not perfect, but maybe it is giving her something I did not have, growing up the courage to speak. I realized recently that she either really likes testing my patience, or she is just a very extremely excited human being. So one day my daughter interrupted a conversation I was having with a friend. She kept pulling my hand and talking over the person while they were speaking. At first, I tried the gentle parenting approach. "Please wait a minute, Mummy is talking." She waited for about 5 seconds, then started again. I repeated, "Please let me finish, then I will attend to you." After a minute, she was back to it, and at this point my patience was running low. I said, "Lexi, listen." She stopped for like 30 seconds. Then she started again, and in that moment I realized something. Some lessons require clarity and firmness. So I stopped the conversation, bent down to her level, and said very clearly, "When adults are speaking, you wait. It is respectful to allow someone to finish before you talk." This time my tone was different. It was calm, but it carried authority. She waited, and later, when it was her turn to speak, she spoke. That day, I realized something. African parenting understands very well. Respect is not always taught softly. Sometimes it needs structure. My daughter is a very excited human being. On this particular day, she ran toward the road without looking. My heart almost stopped. This was not a moment for gentle explanations or emotional processing. Cars do not slow down parenting philosophies. I shouted her name loudly and firmly. She froze because she sensed the fear and panic in my voice, and I quickly pulled her back. Afterward, we talked about road safety and why she must always stop before crossing. It's not that she doesn't know about road safety, they are told at school all the time. But children being themselves will still do what they want anyways, even when they know it's bad. It never makes them bad children. It just makes them children. In that moment, I understood that some situations require immediate authority, because when it comes to safety, hesitation can be dangerous. Sometimes the African parenting voice that says stop is exactly what is needed. One evening, she refused to go to bed. She negotiated, reasoned, and asked for 5 more minutes, which became 15, then 20. The gentle parenting side of me kept explaining why sleep was important. But eventually, I realized something. Children also need boundaries they cannot negotiate away. So I simply said, "It is bedtime now." No debate, no long explanations, just a clear boundary. She protested for a moment, but eventually went to bed, and the next night bedtime was easier. That was when I realized that structure can sometimes give children a sense of security. They may not like the rule, but they know the rule exists. Children reach an age where they start asking the question, why about everything? Why is the sky blue? Why do we sleep? Why can't I eat cake for breakfast? Why do adults work? Why do people die? At first, it is cute. Then it becomes annoying. In an African household, the answer to the 5th why is usually very simple. Because I said so, and the conversation ends there. But apparently gentle parenting demands explanations. So one day, after answering about 20 whys, my daughter asked another one. Why do I have to sleep early? My African parenting brain immediately wanted to respond with the classic answer, because I said so. But the gentle parenting part of me forced me to explain about rest, health, and growing bodies. She listened quietly. Then she asked another question. Then why don't you sleep early too? That day I realized gentle parenting also exposes your hypocrisy. If there is one thing my daughter knows, it's what I do not tolerate. She knows how much I do not tolerate writings on the wall. Growing up, I made sure she had enough writing pads, notebooks, normal books, plain paper, anything that would help her write. I have always been very clear about the no writing on the wall rule. But at 4, she decided it was time to test the water to check if it was still hot or cold. She picked charcoal and went to my side of the wall and wrote gibberish all over it. She did, and when I saw the wall, I almost lost it. Of all the tiny crimes our bundles of joy can commit, you see, writing on the wall, that one is the worst one in my books. As a matter of fact, I'm already feeling a certain way talking about it. I realized my anger was too much, and I knew at that moment that if was to open my mouth and speak, I would have said something that I wasn't supposed to say to a child. So I went inside and took some cold water to calm me down. I washed my face and fetched a full bucket of water, then added detergent to it. I picked a brush and sponge and came with it outside. I also went outside and picked up a cane, a tiny one. Then I calmly called her and told her to pick one. She was to either receive 2 strokes of the cane or wash that part of the wall and make sure it's only the wall paint I'm seeing. She picked the option of washing the wall, but come on, she was 4 years old, and I knew she wasn't going to be able to wash it well. So we washed it together till it was sparkling. That moment reminded me that discipline is not always punishment. Sometimes it is simply allowing children to face the results of their choices. There was a time she complained about the food I had cooked. She pushed the plate away and said, "I don't eat that." The African parent in me came alive. In many African homes, eating food is not just about taste. It is about staying alive. You either eat and stay alive, or you don't eat and wait for hunger to deal with you appropriately. So I smiled and asked her, "Are you sure?" You see, when an African parent asks you if you are sure, please, and I repeat, please don't say yes. But my child did. She said she doesn't eat that food. I'm her mother. I would know if my child was allergic to something. This was something we ate so often, but earlier that day, she was playing with her friends, and one of them said she didn't like that particular dish. And she thought in her beautiful head, it was a good idea to copy her friend whose father has 3 cars, and the mother has 2 cars with me, who can't even afford to buy a bicycle. When she said she was sure, I was like, okay, you can go and brush your teeth and go to bed since you are not eating and you have school tomorrow morning. Did we go to bed again? She sat and finished her food and even asked for more. So when she finished, I asked her where that was coming from. Then she told me it was her friend, who had said earlier that day that she did not like that when they saw me cooking my food. I told her next time, don't do things just because your friends are doing it. Another time, my daughter did something that genuinely scared me. We were outside playing near the compound when she picked up a small stone and threw it toward another child. It missed the child, but hit a window instead. The sound of the glass cracking made my heart drop. In that moment, gentle explanations were not the first thing that came to my mind. My mind immediately went to the possible consequences. Someone could have been seriously hurt, and the window could have shattered and injured someone. This was one of those moments where the seriousness of the situation needed to be felt immediately. So my reaction was firm and much harsher than usual. I stopped her right there and made it very clear that what she had done was dangerous and unacceptable. My tone carried the kind of authority that leaves no room for negotiation. She apologized, and for a moment I felt the familiar guilt creeping in again. But later, after things had calmed down, we sat together and talked about why throwing objects can hurt people and why some actions require immediate correction. That day reminded me that some lessons cannot be delivered softly in the moment. Sometimes the urgency of the situation requires a strong response, so the child understands the weight of what just happened. African parenting understood this very well. Not every moment is a teaching circle on the floor. Some moments are alarms, moments that say, "This must stop immediately," and in those moments, firmness is not cruelty. Sometimes it is protection. One evening after a long day, I was sitting quietly, clearly tired and a little overwhelmed. Parenting, unemployment, school, and life had all decided to visit my mind at the same time. My daughter noticed. Children notice more than we think. She came and sat next to me and asked, "Mummy, are you okay?" For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Growing up, children did not ask adults questions like that. Adults carried their struggles silently. But there she was, waiting for an answer. So I told her the truth. "I'm just a little tired today." She thought about it for a second, then wrapped her small arms around me and said, "It's okay, Mummy. You go and lie down." In that moment, something inside me shifted. Growing up, I don't remember many moments when emotions were spoken about openly. You were expected to be strong, respectful, and disciplined, but not necessarily expressive. Yet here was my daughter showing me something I had rarely experienced growing up: empathy. And it hit me that maybe this whole parenting journey is not just about shaping our children. Maybe sometimes our children are also quietly healing parts of us that we didn't even know were wounded. Maybe while we are trying to raise them to become better adults, they're also helping us become better humans. If parenting has taught me anything, it is that there is no perfect formula. Some days, gentle parenting works beautifully. Other days, the African parenting in me shows up faster than my patience. Some moments require softness, explanation, and empathy. Other moments require firmness, structure, and immediate correction. Somewhere between those two worlds is where many of us African parents are trying to stand today. And maybe that is the real journey, not choosing one side over the other,
You're getting
but
good at
learning how
that.
to raise children who are both respectful and confident, disciplined, and emotionally aware. Because sometimes, while we are trying our best to raise our children, they are quietly teaching us how to grow too. Thank you for watching. If you have
If
enjoyed
you
this
enjoy
story,
relatable parenting
please
stories
remember
like
to
this, please
like,
subscribe to my channel
comment,
and let me know in the
share,
comments what kind of
and
stories you'd love to see
subscribe.
next.
Till next time, have a wonderful week and may God bless you.